On this week's episode, we are talking about things only disabled friends discuss.
It's like we have our own language together that it feels like only we can understand. So we'll let you in.
So stick around.
Hi, and welcome to Rare with Flair.
The podcast where two best friends with the same rare disease are out here living our best lives. I am your host, Casey.
And I'm your host, Cassandra. Well, I haven't smelled fall yet.
I thought I had an inkling of a smell last night. Just the slightest start.
I did too. I know what you mean, because as I left, okay. I was out later last night. I was at a coffee shop, and then I left, and I was like, it's chilly. And I feel like the cold air smells like something.
Yes, yes. It's the first smell of fall has to be at night when you walk outside and it's chilly for the first time. That's when it starts.
Yeah.
And I was letting my dog out to potty kind of late last night, and I was like, huh?
What is this?
What's that chill in the air? Is that the smell of autumn? And so, yeah, I am getting very excited for that. And we all hope you enjoyed our last episode about our autumn bucket list.
Actually,
what we're gonna be doing.
I have a friend, which this is still related to fall. I have a friend who, as she sees trees where the leaves are starting to turn, she like stops what she's doing and she's like, hi, fall. And it feels very much like, hi, Barbie from the Barbie movie. It's really cute.
I love that.
So I'm starting to do that now. I totally borrowed it from her, but it feels exciting.
I love it. I think it's sweet. I think it's sweet when people do things like that. You got to appreciate the little things.
Definitely.
How have you been?
I have been all right. We are hanging and doing our best. Update on my bucket list, though. I did make zucchini bread, and I have been listening to the most of the music I feel like I mentioned wanting to listen to on our last episode. So I'm making good on my promises.
Wonderful.
How are you doing with your bucket list?
I'm doing well. I'm doing pretty well. I haven't done anything yet, I don't think. You know what? I'm really disturbed, seriously, because we're in mid-September and I have not decorated my house for fall yet.
Oh my gosh, me neither.
I know. And we're already in mid-September. And
tomorrow is the 20th.
Yeah, that's scary, right?
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Oh my gosh. We need to hurry up.
Which means... yeah, we need to hurry up. I'm busy.
I know. I feel like maybe part of the reason is that it's been quite warm throughout this September for us. So it's now starting to get cold, but during the days it's still like a high of 70 something, which still feels too warm.
High of 70, please. That's child's play.
Or Southern Belle has things to say.
Listen, it's like still in the 80s, maybe 90s.
Girl, here. What? You could not pay me to live in the South.
Yeah, but then you couldn't pay me, not Ohio, but just North. Like, you couldn't pay me to live in the winter of North.
That's
so
fair.
I'll take what I can, because I am a baby when it comes to the cold. Like an actual complainy child.
But you have so many cute sweaters.
I do. I wear my sweater. It snows here. It just takes a long time to get there.
I remember you always send me a video when it snows. It's really cute. It feels very Gilmore Girls. It's the first snow.
But it is rare to get snow here, but it does get cold. Like, I'll be wearing my sweaters. You know, it's not like
I know. I visited you in November. I was chilly.
That was a cold time when you came to visit.
It was chilly.
Anyways, but no, I agree though. I don't love that it stays this hot when it's supposed to be fun fall seasons. It's not supposed to be this hot.
I am trying to manifest the best I can. I went to Dairy Queen today and I got a pumpkin pie blizzard. And girl, let me tell you, it was good. It was really good.
Delectable.
You need to get your butt over to Dairy Queen.
Oh, clearly. I don't think I have a Dairy Queen like anywhere nearby. I think they've all closed down around here. I know. It's actually devastating because I watch Dairy Queen on Instagram and TikTok. They have like a lot of good video content.
Oh, that's so funny.
That I thoroughly enjoy, and it makes me want to try all those new things. I bet it was amazing.
It was really good. Like it tasted like pumpkin, but also like had a lot of clove flavor. Like it wasn't just straight up cinnamon. I was shocked. It was delicious.
That sounds amazing. Oh, I love any kind of pumpkin spice type flavored thing.
Oh, I know.
So good.
I know.
But yeah.
Oh man, anything else you've been up to?
Not really. I am traveling this weekend, and by the time you hear this, I'll be back. But I'm going to a Pink concert for my sister's birthday.
So fun.
And when I say traveling, it's not too far, just a few hours away, but that's what she wanted for her birthday, and I'm excited to tag along for the ride. And it should be a good time.
Should be a fun show.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brandi Carlile is opening, and she's one of my very favorites.
So that's such a bonus. Excited. Wow.
It's such a bonus. It really is. Anything else for you before we hop in?
Well, at the time this episode will be coming out, I will be at the NIH.
The NIH. Oh
may or may not be in the Saffron Lounge. Jury is still out.
If you heard our episode, you know the jokes.
Yeah.
You know the inside jokes about the NIH.
You should give it a listen. But I'm actually kind of excited to go to the NIH. I think it's a goofy, quirky time, but I think it'll be good to go and get like a solid like assessment on just my general health. I'm feeling healthy, but you never know what's going on the inside, so we're going to find out.
Well, Cass, when you come back, we want a full report of the urine on ice, the 24-hour urine on ice.
Well, because I'm not in I don't know if I'm going to be in the Saffron Lounge. Saffron Lodge is the place.
Oh, true.
So I'm like a little concerned about having to take a jug of urine through a hotel lobby. I will give the report in the next episode, I guess.
It's in a discreet bag.
Yeah, it's neon orange.
Mine was blue, I think.
Oh, you had it in a bag? See, the jug itself is bright orange.
The jug itself is bright orange, yes. Yes, correct. No, they gave me did I have a bag? Maybe I'm pretending. I think I had a bag like 10 years ago that I discreetly carried.
I like that's like, what you remember and not your visit in January.
Most recently I did not, but I definitely had a blue bag with like a drawstring.
Yeah, it's the patient belongings bags.
Sure.
Yeah. They say like in big letters. Yeah, I'll give you the full report.
Full report when you return.
Absolutely.
Yes. Speaking of,
right?
This is the kind of thing we talk about.
Yeah, no kidding. This actually worked as an excellent segue, and I didn't plan it that way.
Excellent segue.
Well, in that episode about research and going to the NIH, Casey had told her story about having to keep the urine jug on ice, which again is something we talk about. It's like a 24-hour urine collection that they ask us to do while we're there. And like when Casey called me in a panic trying to find ice to put the jug on, she had this almost out of body experience as we were on the phone to me. She was like, "What are we doing? What are we even talking about?"
Yeah. I was like, you truly are the only person I can call in a panic about this 24-hour urine on ice. And we were like, we need to make a whole episode about that, not just with our health, but with also our vision and just disability in general. Like the things that only disabled friends can talk about. The things that if I have an issue, I call you up about it. We both have lists that we made on our own. Yes. We have not shared said lists with each other. It's a surprise, but we have a feeling there's going to be quite a lot of crossover. Possibly the whole list might be the same
just crossover, but we'll elaborate. We'll tell stories like
and if you say something I have or vice versa, we'll just skip over.
Yeah, definitely. All right, do you want to begin?
I'll begin. Okay, this one is pretty broad and it's pretty self-explanatory. Actually, a lot of these things are things we already talk about on the podcast.
Right. Just organized in a different list.
Yes. But okay, literally anytime I have an awkward social situation because of my vision, I memo Cassandra on text and tell her about it. I literally just had an awkward moment the other day where my neighbor's dog was barking, but I couldn't hear where it was coming from, and I just yanked my dog inside as fast as possible, and it probably looked like I was being very rude and strange. And I tell her about all these things. When I just recently at church, someone was talking to me and I had no idea and I ignored them. You know, these things that happen, and I just tell you every time, because who else? I don't tell anyone else often.
No, yeah.
I sometimes do, but not often. So it's you. You're the one that gets all of those stories.
It's you. That was the first thing that came into my head. No, that was the first thing I wrote down. That was the first thing I wrote down too. I wrote blind moments because
oh, good.
Because I was thinking literally today, I haven't told you this one. One of my I was listening to music kind of loud in my headphones, and I was at the office doing work. One of my coworkers had come over to like tell me something, and I like kind of saw her out of my peripheral, but I wasn't sure because like we're in an area where there aren't that many people that walk by, but we're by these windows where people are walking outside in like a big atrium type hallway. So like I always see movement in my peripheral anyway. There's always people walking. And so because I also didn't hear her because I had my headphones in, I like completely ignored her. She's like, I thought you were like, I walked over to her later. I was like, were you just standing by my desk? And she was like, I thought you were on a call. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, I was not. I just didn't really realize you were there in the first place.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. It's those everyday moments that we have. That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. And like, it's, of course we could tell anyone. If we had significant others, we would tell them to probably, but they wouldn't get it the way you do.
Right. And I think like, and sometimes if it's like particularly really embarrassing, I'll tell other people because it's like a funny story.
Right.
But I'm not going to come to them with every little time because they don't even get it the way that you do. Yeah. So it's like, they don't need to hear every little moment when that happens because it truly is like once a week at least.
Yes.
So if not more. So yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go next?
Yes. So the second thing I wrote down was the disability community tea. So
you best believe I have that on my list as well.
I knew you would because we literally talked about this like yesterday. So like people, so you know, we're involved in many different communities. We did an episode about like the communities that we have been involved with, and you know the importance of trying to find people that have experiences like yours. And so a lot of the times with these people we keep up on social media, so it'll often happen that like one of us will see something and be like, did you see what so-and-so is what's happening? So like they're in the hospital, like, oh my gosh, what do you think they're doing? Oh, it says they're gonna operate? Like what are they okay, like we start speculating like
Yeah. And I think part of the reason for this is we have we have basically like the same friend circle.
Yeah.
And all of our other friends don't know these specific friends. So like if that makes any sense, like this community, our other outside friends don't know these people. You're like the only friend I have that knows all of these people.
They're basically mutuals.
Yeah, they're like mutual friends. And so, yeah, did you see so-and-so got engaged? Or like, you know, sometimes it is medical, like you were saying. Like, did you hear so-and-so started that new drug? Or like, did you hear so-and-so isn't doing very well? Like, we need to pray for them. You know, like just, you know, it's not necessarily like gossip like we're being mean, but it's just like the talk of the town of like, did you hear that person is doing that? And kind of just just almost like watching out for each other, like making sure the other one saw that update, you know, to be like, hey, you should probably reach out to so-and-so because they're having a hard you know, did you see that they're having a hard time? You should probably text them or whatever. And I think that's a really cool and unique experience that we have. And I think you can find that in other friendships. Like in other friendships, if you went to college with them, you might have like mutual college friends or things like that. But this is just so specifically strange.
Right. Because it's more than just like life updates on mutual friends we have. It's also a lot of times medical updates on mutual friends we have. Yeah. So... you know, like so-and-so got listed for a lung transplant, like, oh man, or sometimes like sometimes it will be a little bit speculative. We'll be like, oh, that person doesn't use a cane. I wonder why. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. Like there is some tea to be spilled, but we don't want it to sound like we're always just like
gossiping about people.
But no, it is. I feel like the funny part about it, because it's medical, it does feel so like TMI too, which is kind of funny. Like that's and a lot of it's like through Facebook,
right?
Like,
and that's what makes, even like when we're not gossiping about people, we're just sharing information. It feels like gossip because it's like personal to them, but they're sharing it willingly in our community spaces, so it's not like a secret.
Yeah. Right, no, we're not like just sharing secrets, but no, yeah, I think that's the disability tea, if you will. The disability, yeah. Okay, the next one is, I contact you nearly every time I bleed or get a bruise.
Literally, okay, I need to say what I wrote down. Quote unquote emergency, because they're not usually emergencies, but emergency situations. And then I put in parentheses and quotes because I knew I needed the prompting. Girl, I cut my ankle and it won't stop bleeding. SOS.
So, as most of you know, with our genetic disorder comes a bleeding disorder. And who else would I talk about this to? Who else?
Not my doctor. No.
No.
They don't need to know every time.
No.
It's my bestie.
Who else but you? I'm like, Cass, I got this really horrible bruise. It's a hematoma. Oh my gosh. And or I'll be like, what bleeding meds should I take for this? Or it's like, we have a minor operation coming up. Like, should we use DDAVP before it? Or are you getting a transfusion? How many transfusions have you had?
Right.
Like, what kind of... Are you like if you ever get hurt, the first thing I'm asking is like, did you bruise? Like,
yeah,
are you all right?
Like,
so that's
and for those who aren't aware, like DDAVP is like a clotting medication that helps us, like if we are in situations where like we have significant bleeding, and so like they can administer that through like IV in the hospital. That might be too much information, but just things like that.
I'm glad you said it. I was kind of like being cryptic to be funny, just because it kind of gets the point across that you're the only person who understands this lingo.
Right. Even. Like to the point where like we have to explain it.
Explain it on the podcast. Exactly. It proves our point that's why you would be the only person that I would talk to about that. I'm not going to explain DDAVP to other people. No. It's just too much. It's too much work.
It's a lot of effort. Like it feels like we speak the same language in that way because we're involved in the same spaces. We have a lot of the same conditions or even variants of like, I know you have sometimes like some like GI upsets, and I have had my share and still do. So like even that kind of stuff we'll talk about, which I feel like, unless you wanted to say another thing about this situation, I was thinking of the next thing I'd written down of like symptom updates, like real-time symptom updates. It's like, girl, I have felt so weird today that like
I put on my list TMI about poop. I was looking for that. But yes, go on.
No, yeah, it's just like, man, I've gone to the bathroom like so many times. Like, and this isn't, we hardly ever apologize for this being TMI because we just know that it's fine.
Right. If I ever have a GI upset type of story, that's not the kind of thing I would just share with anyone and everyone. Like, you really are the one. I'm like, girl, listen, you got to hear what happened today. Like, and that's, I'm grateful to have you for that, because I mean, from the moment we met, we were talking about medical things. Like
literally, like in the shuttle where we met.
Yes,
we were already talking about medical things.
And that's the cool thing about medical friends is you have this instant bond where you feel like you get really deep really fast. You
share a lot of just like personal information because you know that they'll at least understand, even if they've never experienced it themselves. I think I was trying to follow a thread, but oh yeah. Okay, I remember. So like I when I was in college, I had a roommate that was also chronically ill. Not in the same way as I am, of course. She just had other chronic illnesses, but we would talk about things like that where sometimes we would share like symptoms. I was like, this has been happening and I don't know if it's in my head or if I don't know if it's a real problem that I don't want to contact my doctor just yet. Do you think this is as if we know?
Yeah. I fairly recently made a new friend who has totally different medical issues than me, but I do feel like talking medical with people, it really does break down those walls very quickly because you're getting very personal very fast.
Definitely.
And so with us, especially having the same issues, like it does make you form a friendship quickly because not only are you talking about TMI stuff, you're kind of talking about like life and death, like deep stuff too.
Yeah.
And that's going to make you bond with someone extremely quickly, especially at these conferences, when the HPS conference specifically, when we're talking about like people dying.
Like lung transplants or lack thereof.
Yeah. So that'll bond you quickly, and that's
definitely.
I actually, if you're ready to move on from that one,
I feel like a lot of these like lead well into each other.
It does, because that's actually another thing I have on my list: deep chats about life and death. I feel like I have that with you the most of anyone in my life, because when we go to these conferences, we're so face to face with that and the fragility of life. Yeah. And I love those chats with you. Like, I love those deep chats about that stuff. And I feel like we've helped shape each other's perspective on life and on that. And I'm really grateful for that. And like, I obviously have deep chats with other friends too, but not as much about that kind of stuff. So
likewise, I think what also helps with us too is that we also have fairly similar worldviews, so it makes conversations like that flow even easier, because it's hard to talk about death, and if you have different beliefs about death, or if you're talking to someone who isn't religious, we're both like deeply Christian, and so we talk about this kind of thing in context of like with our faith and our relationship with the Lord. And so, that also makes those chats even more fruitful for the two of us, because we know we're not only speaking the same language of experience, but we're also speaking like the same faith language.
Yeah. And that's a good point you bring up, because I don't want to like derail off of the episode topic too much, but I don't think our disability is the only thing that like connects us as friends.
Oh, definitely not.
We've talked about this a lot. We share a lot of other similar interests, like you said, similar beliefs, like so many similar hobbies. So like, this is definitely not like all we talk about all the time. I know on the podcast it basically is.
I mean, this is our show about disability.
Yeah. we have so many shared interests where I do think we would be friends without our disability, but we also wouldn't have met without it. So it's kind of one of those weird situations where, I think it's like just another extra way that we've been able to bond. But I mean, if you listen to our Flair episodes, you'll know that we like to talk about all kinds of other things together. Like, we literally did a couple months ago an episode about how we watch cartoons together, which is something that we both have a shared love for. So, totally agree. But and thank you so much to the two people who recently reached out to us about the cartoon episode. Like, we did not think anybody even listened to that.
We were, not to take too long out of the episode, but like, we had just been having a conversation that we're like, I don't think anybody listened to that episode. It was exclusively for us. But the fact that two people reached out and really enjoyed it, you know what? Thank you, guys. There really is something for everyone.
Thank you so much. Like, we got great long messages from people about the cartoons they love, so we love sharing that.
That's so good.
And who knows? We might do a part 2.
Ooh, yeah, I know. We're finishing up our current cartoon.
Yeah, once we watch 4 or 5 more, we'll do a part 2 for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So, not to be so abrupt, but
you're good.
Speaking of deep thoughts and deep chats, I had another deep chat, but similar, about like anxieties or insecurities like that are related to our disability. You know, we did an episode, I feel like this is an episode laden with cross-reference. But it's hard to throw a rock at this point at a topic we haven't talked about at all on this show anymore. But we did an episode called The Blind Side of Mental Health, where we were talking about just the things that in daily life can be very anxiety provoking as like someone with a disability. Like literally the concept of like, I don't know, meeting a new friend for the very first time, like blind date style, right? Like you barely know them and you're like trying to show up at a restaurant and like grab coffee with them. Like that is terrifying. What a terrifying scenario. But like no one would understand the reasons that is scary other than like you.
Yeah. No, I don't even have that on my list, so I'm glad we don't. It's not all crossover, you see. Completely agree. Like, I'm really able to be vulnerable with you about those things that I couldn't talk to other people about, not because they don't care and they wouldn't be there for me, but simply because they just wouldn't understand. Like, they haven't, you have that lived experience where I can tell you these feelings and you know exactly how I'm feeling. So,
yeah. Well, and you bring up, like, good points that sometimes I maybe haven't even thought about, like, recently you were like, is it weird that I do things in an adaptive way when, like, do you think, you know, just wondering aloud, like, do you think people think that I'm weird since no one else does it this way? But, you know, we need the adaptive way because that's how we can do it. But sometimes, you know, you just kind of wonder aloud to each other, like, I wonder what other people think.
Yes. Like, do I look super weird doing it this way? Or, yeah. And kind of getting your input on, like, do you feel weird doing this? Or is it just me? Or, like, you know, I appreciate that a lot. Actually, that leads me, I feel like these all segue so well. I know. That leads me into asking you how you do things. Like, how you do specific things. Like, hey, I'm about to do this new thing or embark on this new journey, and maybe you've done it before. And how do you handle it? Or how would you handle it? And what technology do you use for that? So I ask you that a fair amount. I'll ask you, like, well, how do you do it? Like, this is how I do it. How do you do it? You know? Right.
No, and I feel like I've asked you that, especially in social situations, because I feel like you hang out with people a lot, and it's not that I don't. I go to new places a lot, which is interesting. We do kind of, I don't know, we both do both, but anyway, I love that, I guess, like, sounding board, and just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other, like, oh, I wonder if this would help, or even if we haven't done that specific thing before, just trying to brainstorm together how we could do something adaptively or in the, like, least inconvenient way possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have that on my list too. It made me think of similar, like, related, but also providing recommendations to each other just without even having to ask, like, hey, I tried this new thing, like, you should check it out, like when I recommended Drip Drop to you.
Yes. And I have something similar on my list of, like, kind of recommending, I put specifically recommending, like, apps or assistive technology to each other.
I had assistive tech.
Okay, I didn't know if that was, like, within this category or if that was separate, but because I'm not trying to skip ahead. I just think it could kind of go in this category of, like, recommendations of any kind.
Yeah.
For a medication recommendation or a assistive tech recommendation. And, I mean, we've given each other plenty of recommendations that have nothing to do with disability, like makeup or whatever. But even makeup sometimes ties in because it's like, what sunscreen is the best that you use, or that kind of stuff.
No, that's how we kind of, I mean, I think we each discovered Supergoop separately, but then we started talking to each other about it as a recommendation. Like, have you heard of this? This looks really cool.
Love that. Okay. One sec. Okay. The next one is I put NIH and conferences.
Yeah.
You know, we go to these places like the NIH or like a research thing or a conference, and kind of getting to not only go to these places together, but like talk about these things together, because a lot of people, I'll be like, yeah, the conference, or yeah, the NIH, and they don't have any kind of like reference for what that's even like at all. You know, I mean, I can explain it as much as I can, but if you're not actually going, these things are so hard to describe. They are such an experience.
Yeah.
Like, they are like almost life altering, I would say. Like, they are so extensive that like I can't even begin to explain it to someone who has not experienced it.
Well, the entire premise involves us having to like divulge more personal information than we would ever really want to. Like it always has to start with like, well, I have this rare disease. Like, literally like telling people I'm going to be out of town next week. They're like, oh, are you doing something fun? And I'm like, I don't know if I'd call it fun, but I'll be back afterward. Like,
oh my gosh. I know. Yeah.
I literally don't know how to explain it to people without giving them my entire life story. So I just don't.
Right. But even with like closer friends and family who haven't been, like my sister has never been to the NIH. And I feel like, yeah, I don't mind telling her a bunch of personal information, but it's still hard to even explain to people who haven't been. Like, you just kind of got to be there. So,
yeah. And like
talking about it with you. Yeah.
And these are things we can share on the pod. But that's like the entire purpose of this show is like, we are divulging the personal information, the background knowledge to make this at least a little bit understandable.
Right.
But yeah, these experiences are so unique that I think, like, your sister's been to conference too, right? I think that, like, describing it to them and then having our siblings, for example, come to conference is just totally different. Like, my sister-in-law hopefully will be coming to conference for the very first time next year. We'll see, fingers crossed. But, like, she's never experienced it, and I'm like wondering, this might be like a very unique experience.
It is very unique, and I feel like on the pod when we describe it, we have a full hour to like sit down and really, really dig it. Whereas like if you're having just a regular conversation with people, you're not gonna have as much time to explain what it's really like. So yeah, I do think that those are the things that only you can understand.
Truly.
And also, like, you understand being the patient in those situations where I'm like, oh, are you going to give a skin sample this time? Or, like, you know, like, you understand, like, what it's like being the actual guinea pig.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man, the NIH. What a time. What a ride.
It's a time.
I feel like we've almost hit all of mine, but, it's like, you know, encouraging each other to take care of ourselves and like not just in a general way like you would to your friends that you also care about, like making sure people drink water. By the way, if you're listening to this, go drink some water.
Go drink your water.
But like talking about like making sure we've got the right meds available to us in an emergency situation, or like just looking out for each other, being our best friend mom self.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty much it that I had to say.
Yeah. No, yeah, I didn't have that one on my list, but I do feel that, like, even when we are at Disney World together or something, I'm like, okay, should we go try to find a place for Romana to go pee? You know, I feel like we think of those things more than maybe other friends would be aware of it. Like, we are aware of the other person and like what any kind of health thing that they're dealing with and all of that. Yeah.
Right. Like we carry sunscreen not just for us, but for each other, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. And we don't feel like a burden, like, talking about those things with each other either. Like, hey, I'm going to need to stop and do this, or I'm going to, you know, and it doesn't feel like it's a problem.
Right. Like you go to the bathroom fairly often.
True.
I feel like you mentioned that before. I don't want to, like, out you on the pod.
Yes.
But, like, just knowing that that's something that we're going to be looking out for. It's like, yep, we got to find a bathroom at any given point, and that's just normal and fine.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I have a few more. I have a few more. I had
please.
my list was a little longer just because I kept thinking of more things. So, I was gonna say we talk a lot about like blind YouTubers and podcasters.
Oh
like,
shoot! I have that disability content tea. Yes.
Oh, yes. I feel like so we definitely talk about people we know, but we also talk about people who are making content. Like, hey, did you see that? Those people haven't updated their podcast in a while. Or
right.
Did you see that this YouTuber uploaded a video doing this? Or we'll kind of send in our DMs, we'll send different little reels of blind people or that kind of stuff. Or even just disability content in general. Like, so I think that's a lot of fun.
Oh, I know. And like, sure, we could send that to other people. And other people frequently send that kind of thing to us. Like, yeah, right. I was like, I assumed as much. But, you know, when my friends see anything relating to blindness, they'll, like, send it to me.
Me too, yeah.
But it just feels different because, like, because we both consume that kind of content, it's nice to receive it from each other because we know that we'll be interested, not just from a purely, like, awareness perspective, but also from, like, from the perspective where I feel like a lot of people who listen to this pod are also people with disabilities or low vision or albinism or something. You feel that like connectedness even though they're effectively a stranger on the internet.
Right. I also have guide dog stuff we talk about like a decent amount, and I know that I don't have a guide, so I definitely can't relate to that, but I think I still kind of can understand better than like maybe a regular friend, if you would, not right, but you know what I mean, like another friend that is not blind.
And there's so many stories that come out of that I don't want to just bother people that I know with. I feel like I would rather like tell them to you or on the pod, like, here's a great story, and it's like less than blindness related. It's just ultimately the experience of just having a service dog in the public. I went to the farmer's market and I got brunch. And the people at the restaurant were extremely kind. And they helped me carry because it was like a tray with some food on it. Like, I didn't really have that many hands. I have one occupied with my guide dog. And so they like helped me like carry it to find a table to sit at. And they were super sweet. I really appreciated that gesture. They even got me a cup of water with ice. I also just like didn't want to spill things. So, but the table they put me at, like, I was kind of like along a walkway. And so I'm like, trying to find like a good position for Romana to lay. And I had her lay just kind of next to me on my left side, but she was totally exposed in the walkway, and like 3 separate women kept making comments while I'm just trying to down my quiche, and they're like, what a beautiful dog, what a good dog. I'm just like, I just want to eat my quiche. But I found a new way. I was like, there's got to be another way to get her to sit under this table, because the chair... I usually like slide her into the chair, but the chair had like a bar across it that like she wouldn't fit under. And so I ended up being able to like move my bag and swap it for my dog against the brick wall, and I'm like, okay, I think we're in the clear.
Get her out of focus. Yeah, and I feel like I enjoy hearing your stories and your updates, and I know that I can't relate, but I feel like I still understand guide dogs and how they work better than the average person who has no concept for what a guide dog even does. So and I've learned a lot of that from you and just from other people in our community, but yeah, I do have 2 more things if you're up for it. I know we did this on the pod, but like rideshare stories.
Oh my gosh, I almost wrote that down actually.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't write that down, but seriously. There's so many.
If there's a rideshare story that I have, you're the first person I'm going to tell about that.
Yeah, seriously. It is hard for a lot of people, especially in non-urban areas, to understand what life would be like if your primary mode of transportation is rideshare. I feel like people really wouldn't understand what it's like to not have the privacy of their own car, and the fun fascination of getting to be with strangers.
Yep. There's always a story. It's always fun. And if I ever have a story, you're the first one I'm coming to.
Oh, man. I know. And I love those. Because no one quite gets the rideshare stories like someone who also takes a lot of rideshare.
Like someone who does it. Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. And the last thing is disability related-ish. And it's the pod.
I knew it! I knew you were going to say that! Ah!
How did you know?
You've done this before! You bring it back to the pod! And I was like, wait. She's going to do it again. Why didn't I think of that? I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed.
I'm always bringing it back to the pod. But for real, the reason we started this pod was our disability. And we talk about it a fair amount, and I feel like, obviously, I wouldn't be talking to anyone else about the pod that we do about our disability if I didn't have you doing the pod about our disability. It all comes full circle. It's like it goes just around and around. It never stops.
Think something that we've talked to each other about, and I think we probably mentioned it on the pod, is like when things happen that are quirky or strange, like rideshare stories or blind moments or, weird guide dog stories, we can turn it around and not just for our own gain, but really just, I guess, for our own catharsis. That we don't have to, like, these situations that could be frustrating sometimes, don't have to make us frustrated because we're like, well, you know what? It'll make a really funny story to tell on the pod. Like,
it's so true. It's so true. Save it for the pod. We often have funny stories and we're like, save it for the pod.
Yeah.
And we'll send each other these voice memos, and sometimes we'll do a little up arrow and like do a brief description of what the memo is about. Yeah. And we'll often do ones that say the pod. Yeah. If we ever have like an update on the pod or any kind of new idea or planning situation going on. So, and who else would I talk about the pod other than the co-host of the pod?
Wow. I mean, I would be a little bit worried if you were talking about the pod. Like, I would love to know what these conversations are about.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's you. It's you. And who else could I talk about it with? And about it and on it.
Right.
Than you, my friend. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I do think.
Oh, go ahead.
Go on.
Nope.
We had a lot of crossover, but we each had different things that the other one didn't say.
Yeah.
So there are quite a lot of things here that we talk about.
I think the moral is if you have a disability, get you a disabled friend.
Get you a friend. I know it's not always the easiest.
Yeah.
But even if you can just connect online, that's a free and easy way to try to connect. Be careful, be safe out there, everybody. But that's a free and easy way to connect with people where you don't have to like actually go to a conference. Sometimes online friends can be really great, and they can become like real friends.
Definitely. And even if you don't have a disability, like, making friends as an adult can be hard. But I think that just trying to find people who share your interests is great. And although having a disability is not necessarily an interest that we have, it was not necessarily something we chose, but it is something that we share. And even though we have different journeys, because we are each individuals, it just feels really nice to have someone who can understand it better than the average person. And I feel like that's true for most like interests that you might have.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even if you find a friend who like has a disability that's not your same one, like that still can be a fun connection to be able to talk with them. So yeah, or just even friends that just might have some kind of difference of any kind that you can relate to. So
yeah,
it doesn't have to be your same disability, but it might be easy to find if you can find a community of people with your same disability. So, and I mean, Cass and I didn't have each other until we were basically adults. So,
yeah,
our teen
teen
adults. Teen adults. So it's okay if you're younger and you don't have anyone right now. It doesn't mean you won't ever meet someone. You could even meet a really close friend in your later in life. So
yeah. I know. Well, and believe it or not, like we are approaching 10 years that we have been friends, and I'm scared.
Oh my God.
I can't believe that that's
scared?
happening. I can't believe it. Like 10 years?
Yeah, what?
I cannot wrap my mind around it.
Wait. Were you 16 and I was 21?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know.
Like that's not 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it is.
It's so wild. And like, yeah, because you were also, I mean, that age gap is so much bigger at that time. And so I just was like, oh my gosh, she's in college. She's so cool. Like,
oh my gosh. I still thought you were cool regardless.
You know what? I will hold on to that for the entire rest of my life.
No, you were though. But at Noah, you were literally in a totally different programming. So I literally couldn't even see you there. And then at HBS, like we did, but yeah, it was just different. But no, I didn't think you were like, I still thought you were cool.
That is the highest compliment.
I did. Hey, listen. I mean, not to sound rude, but there's like 2 people next to your age when you have a rare disease. So I was like grasping onto you for dear life.
I know, yeah. Likewise. Well, I had no idea what to expect going to my first conference, and then I was like, oh, cool. There really isn't anyone my age. That's fun. Like,
right. But even when you I feel like high school was kind of a jump, but even when you got to college, even though I was out of it, I felt like we were like on a friendship level at that point.
Definitely.
Like,
yeah.
We were. Mm-hmm.
Friends.
Well, yes, friends. It's great. It's been so fun. Thank you for listening.
Yes, and we will see you in 2 weeks with some other episode. We barely even know. We have it planned. We'll be here.
We do. Bye.
Bye.